I know I love to crap on the Bears organization a lot of times. Bears football and all of that. And they deserve every bit of it. But let's be clear. It is still much better to be a Bears fan than to be a Lions fan. Ooh. Yikes. Yikes. It had to be really rough for Lions fans last year to watch the franchise quarterback of a decade, Matthew Stafford, be traded away to the Rams. And his first year there, he wins the Super Bowl. And like the whole narrative around Stafford's career changed dramatically in that moment. Meanwhile, the Lions are still the Lions. But hey, the past is the past, and it's time to move on to the future, right? And 2022 brings year 2 of the Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes era in Detroit. And 2021 certainly was off to a rough start. They were 0-10-1. If you remember, they tied the Steelers. It was that when Mason Rudolph had to play in place of Big Ben. So it certainly didn't get off to the greatest of starts, even though you saw some flashes from this team that they were fighting, that they were competitive, that Campbell was trying to win. Like, if you remember, didn't they have like fake field goals and fake punts against the freaking Rams? So you could tell they were trying. Like, they just didn't have the Jimmies and Joes, and frankly, I didn't think they had some of the X's and O's, but the effort was there. The buy-in was there. And I think that reflected later in the season when the Lions won 3 of their last 6 games. And you could say, well, the last win was against the Packers, and they were playing the Packers JV squad mostly. Well, the Lions are a JV squad. Let's be real here. So they still won 3 of their last 6 games, which gives you some positive momentum to go off of as you build towards 2022, especially when you look at the fact that in 2021, 6 of their losses came by 8 points or less. So this was a team that they would get routed sometimes, and they got dominated sometimes, but they had some other games that they really brought the fight to other teams, and they weren't an easy out. And if you talk about, hey, a few of those close losses or wins, like you think about the Thanksgiving game where they lost to the Bears basically at the end of the game, you win a couple of those games, and you talk about a 6 or 7 win team, and the trajectory is much different for this Lions team in terms of the narrative surrounding them for 2022. Now, for the Lions, they weren't incredibly active in free agency. They did add DJ Chark to the wide receiver group in the draft. They utilized the number 2 overall pick to go get Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end from Michigan, and then turn back around with that first-round pick that they got as part of the Matthew Stafford trade, along with the one they got next year from the Rams. They made a big move up the board to get into Minnesota's slot to take the wide receiver from Alabama, Jameson Williams, who you would assume at some point in time this year will play coming off of the knee injury, but it might not be right away. And then drafted Josh Pascal in round 2, the defensive end from Kentucky. Here's the one thing I really question about their draft. Is like Aiden Hutchinson, I understand. I do understand. Jameson Williams, I understand. If you're going to make that big trade up for Jameson Williams, who's going to throw him the effing ball? I really, really question running it back all the way with Jared Goff in 2022. Like with no real threat, no real challenge. And I especially question not drafting Malik Willis. You have potentially multiple swings at the plate that you could have taken to draft Malik Willis. Why would you not do that here? And you're going to say, well, you'll point to the 2023 class and you think it's going to be better with the Youngs and the Strouds of the world. And who's to say those will even be the top quarterbacks? Number 2, who's to say that the Lions don't win themselves too many games where they're out of the shouting distance for one of the top quarterbacks next year? Number 3, you say, well, they've got 2 first-round picks. Somebody will take the price. They might not, because it depends on those teams at the top and who might need a quarterback. They might not be so eager to beg out of that spot. The point I'm getting at here is when it comes to like getting a quarterback, you could punt and wait to the future all you want, but nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. Next year's class could be meh, or it could be good and you're not in a position to get the right one. So why not take a swing at the plate now with Malik Willis? And maybe Malik Willis does nothing in the NFL. Maybe. But take the swing, take the chance, because it's kind of a Jalen Hurts situation in Philly. You could draft him and give him a shot, and if he plays well enough, it allows you to wait on your decision, or if he doesn't, hey, we did maybe invest a second-round pick in him, but it's not at all end of the world if we have to replace him. That's the one thing I really didn't understand about this offseason for the Lions. To bring in no real young competition at the quarterback position to go opposite Jared Goff. That was really boneheaded in my opinion. When I look at this team, though, let's talk about their roster. Some of the strengths that I see right now, their offensive line group. Like, they're really good at tackles with Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell. Then you got Ragnow in the middle. You got Jonah Jackson at left guard. Like, this is a really good offensive line unit. And with this really good offensive line unit, they're able to have some of the physical identity, the kind of smash mouth identity that matches the head coach, Dan Campbell. I want to undercut and cut off your knees. You look at this receiving group. It's a young group. I like it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, coming into last year's draft, I had like a first-round grade on him. And, man, he played really well. DJ Chark, if he stays healthy, here's a guy that brings a big play threat in the passing game, although I question again, who's going to throw him the damn ball. Hopefully you'll get more out of TJ Hawkinson. He was a former top 10 pick. Jamison Williams, when he gets into the lineup, there's going to be some big playability in this passing game. You've got some speed. You've got some skill in that receiving group. Even if you talk about DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. So, I don't know if you got the quarterback to get it to these guys, but you certainly got a group that isn't so bad. I wish the Bears had this receiving group, frankly. And then look at Dan Campbell's leadership. I look at 2021, and under inferior leadership, that was a team that easily could have went 0-17 or 1-16. They were that bad from a talent standpoint. But they were scrappy. They fought. They battled. They won 3 games. To go 3-13-1 with that roster, that was really, really hard to do. So I think that points to the positive notes around Dan Campbell and his leadership. You can talk about some of the X's and O's and some of the in-game decisions. That was exposed a little bit, I think, even in the Thanksgiving game. So we'll see how he does in terms of managing games and managing situations in 2022. But no question that the team competes underneath his leadership. The concerns that I've talked about it quite a bit. Jared Goff. I understand you got a lot of money tied up into him. But what good does it do to have this great offensive line and this great receiving group if you got Jared Goff as your quarterback? I'm just saying. Now, maybe he rebounds and he has a better 2022. Do you really think so, though? Their running game, you look at DeAndre Smith and Jamal Williams. Are those guys going to stay healthy for a full season? How much are they going to be able to run the ball? It feels like a shame to have that really good offensive line unit and be mid to below mid in terms of running the ball. And then defensively, sure, you drafted Aiden Hutchinson. And eventually Pascal will play. But how much better did that defense get? Are you hoping Okudah, your 3rd overall pick from a couple of years ago from a previously failed regime, is all of a sudden going to play like a number 1 corner? I mean, you re-signed some of your guys like the Anzalonis and the Charles Harrises of the world and so forth, yes. But they're still returning as part of the cogs of a really bad defense last year. Maybe you're hoping the continuity, another year in the system, another year together, make them a little bit better, and perhaps it does. You're hoping maybe Aiden Hutchinson makes a difference, and he probably does. But how much of a difference does he really make? When I look at the schedule for the Lions, I look at the early part of the slate. You've got 2 home games to start off the year against NFC East teams in Philadelphia and Washington. You got to win at least one of those 2. You don't want to be the Lions and get off to another really slow-ass start in 2022. You want to be able to show growth, and you want to see some progression. Then I look at week 4, hosting Seattle. So 3 of the first 4 games are at home. And especially Seattle, that should be a winnable game. And then you got weeks 9 and 10. You've got a couple of divisional games there. Green Bay, hosting them in Detroit, and then going to Chicago to play the Bears. If you're the Lions, you want to find a way to be competitive in your division or with your division rivals. Maybe winning one of those games would be a good step in that direction. And then you look at the week 13 to 16 schedule. This is a situation where the Lions could get off to a slow start, maybe not as slow as last year, but a slow start again this year. And then later on in the year, they might be able to piece some wins together because they host Jacksonville, host Minnesota, and then go to the Jets and to Carolina. Could be some potentially winnable games, although everybody's going to look at the Lions on their schedule and say that feels like a winnable game, and understandably so. I was hoping, for the Lions standpoint, for me to get more behind them and rage more about them being a sleeper this year, that they would have done more in the offseason. Like, you finished 3-13-1. I would have thought you would have done more to upgrade more of the talent on your roster than you did. I think this team will be improved, and I think the record will be improved this year, but not as much as I thought it was going to be. Like, if you'd asked me back in January, like, would I potentially be slotting in the Lions as a sleeper as, like, the 7th seed in the NFC? Perhaps. I can't do that now. I look at them and I say, I think they're behind the Bears in this division. Not by a ton, maybe, but I think they are by a little bit. So I've got them winning 6 games, bringing up the rear in the NFC North. But honestly, if you look at it, the Lions under the previous regime were so god-awful bad. For them to go 3-13-1 and then turn around and go 6-11, like, that's growth, that's progress. And that's all without a big-time defense. That's without a big-time running game. That's without a big-time quarterback. Like, there's still massive opportunity for growth and improvement, which could bring in much bigger turnaround in 2023. My hope for the Lions is that they play the slow game here in terms of if they see some growth and they see some progress under Dan Campbell in 2022, that Brad Holmes isn't so quick to kind of pull the hook on him, and that you continue to allow it to play out. I do think, like I said, though, the Lions will bring up the rear in this division, but they are a team that you can't overlook because they're going to come at you and they're going to fight hard. And I would expect that to hold true this upcoming season.